Welcome to the Heart Attack Thriver podcast. My name is Brian Simpson, and I'll be your host. In this week's episode, kind of going back in a way into the archives as I'm speaking with Randy Feltner, who's from Virginia. Randy and I connected a number of years ago, and he was one of my early guests. And I recently saw a post that he put up, and I was like, I got to get in touch with him, and we need to have a revisit and a catch up. So Randy, welcome to the podcast. Why don't you just reintroduce yourself and let's dive into what's present for you these days?
So my name's Randy Feltner. I am a husband and father living here in Virginia, firefighter for another 2 years. Then I get to retire. And then currently I am, like Brian said, a heart attack survivor. I had a heart attack 7.5 years ago at 38 years old while at work at the firehouse. Went into cardiac arrest for 3 or 4 minutes. And luckily enough, I was with my crew. So they saved my life that day, But ever since then, I try to I was given this amazing gift to survive and try to make the most of it. Not a whole lot bothers me anymore. I used to be a pretty high strung, angry guy most of the time. And, I guess you get that close to not being here, you kind of realize that a lot of that stuff don't matter anymore. My wife kind of gets mad at me because, she'll get rung up about stuff. And then I'm just kind of like, you know, it is what it is. So since we talked last, I'm still working. I've been traveling all over the country talking about, heart health and help keeping firefighters, making them aware of like preventative stuff to not have to go through what I went through. But from that, I've kind of branched out and started talking about leadership in the fire service, but also just in life. So last year I did a bunch of stuff on the East Coast, actually made my way to California for the first time and went to Napa Valley and taught a class out there. Been all over the place. And, my whole goal now is to just, I've learned so many great lessons from people as far as, how to improve yourself, on the job, off the job, in life, just trying to pass that on to somebody else since I've been given this opportunity to still be here. When I'm not doing any of that, I am currently a full-time theater dad. My daughter is ate up with musical theater. She found a great group, Aspire Christian Theater, because we homeschool our kids. So we ended up stumbling upon this group during COVID, just thinking, she likes to sing and dance, and she'd go up there and get it out of her system, and it became her whole life. So when we're not doing theater, we're going to voice lessons, or we're going to chorus, or we're going to dance lessons. So I've learned more about Broadway in the past year and a half than I've ever cared to know, but she loves it. So now we love it too.
I love that. It brings back memories of my son being, a bike racer and how we followed him around, literally went uh, across the pond, watched him compete in Kazakhstan, went to South Korea. I mean, just the things you do for your kids.
Yeah.
You don't have any concept of that until you become a father or a mother, and how much, your lives become so entwined and you're into whatever they're into because that's what you do and you want to support them and whatever brings them joy and happiness. It's amazing. I love that. I love that. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
it's got to the point now. Like I used to on the way to work, I'd have my little playlist to get me hyped up before I come in, and be like some old Public Enemy, maybe some Wu-Tang Clan, Metallica, something to get me fired up. Like this morning, I listened to The Greatest Showman coming to work. I'm like, what is going on in my playlist now? But that's my daughter got a hold of my Spotify, so that's what happens to it, I guess.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you said Wu-Tang Clan because we just watched American Idol, the most recent episode, and it was the Hall of Fame episode, and the Wu-Tang Clan got inducted into the Hall of Fame, which is really cool because
Yeah.
who would have thought that they would ever be
No,
inducted into?
absolutely not right.
It's insane, right? But I love that you're traveling around and you're spreading your medicine. I know we talked about this before, that we have medicine on our heart, and that was one of the things I really admired about you, that you answered the call. And you had said something to me that I want to just touch on again. You talked about survivor's responsibility, and that was like an aha moment for me when we last talked. And I hadn't really thought of it in the terms and the way you were. And I was like, wow, I love that. I love that you are, going around and raising awareness to the fact that the number one killer of firefighters is heart attacks. Like, it's crazy. And I live in California now, and I have a job at a place called Ace Hardware. I don't know if they're out on the East Coast or
They
not,
are,
but
yeah,
they're
yeah, yeah.
all over the country. And we get all these firefighters that come in and they're coming in. One guy, he's a maintenance guy, and he comes in and I'm like, I want a t-shirt, man. I want a Malibu, like t-shirt from you. And he says, I'll get you one of these times. I'll remember. And I'm always talking to them about that. And I'm like, so do you guys know what the number one cause of death is for firefighters? It's shocking how many of these guys have no clue. It really shocking to, and they're like, no, what is it? I said, it's heart attack. Uh, I said the reason why that is the stress factor, the potential for smoke inhalation. I mean, there's still a bro kind of mentality. I still hear stories and see stuff about guys that are going into fires, not putting on their mask and the ventilation and stuff like that's just a quick way to really screw up your whole cardiovascular system,
Well,
you
that
know?
and, we're sitting here at the firehouse and, we do our training and we go to the gym and do all that. But there is no, I mean, there you can simulate it, I guess, but, like, we're sitting here at dinner and you're having, steak and baked potato for dinner or whatever, and then the fire alarm goes off and you're out the door and your body is going from 0 to 60 in, like, 3 seconds. And then you're going into an environment where it's 800-900 degrees and you're working for 30-40 minutes. Like, your body's not designed to handle that. So the amount of stress that you go from not doing anything to maxing your body out, that's why all these new laws and like workman's comp coverages, you know they look to see if you run a fire in the past couple days, because it might not happen right then. Most time it happens when you get home, and then your
Yeah.
body just finally catches up, and then your heart can't handle it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it really is. Like I said, I've done a lot of reading on that, and I was a firefighter years ago, and it was short lived. But I mean, I just remember like climbing up that ladder for the first time with this huge heavy hose, and I'm kind of afraid of heights, and getting up there, and then I had to climb through a window, and then I had to go into this burning freaking building, and I'm like, whoa, this is intense, like intense heat, intense. Just everything. And it's a controlled environment. There's guys that are in there that are kind of guiding you and teaching you how you would go about tackling that fire and that kind of stuff. But I'll never forget that. And unfortunately, I ended up got a transfer for work and moved away from that community. And when I did get to where I grew up, back to where I grew up, which is a place I said I'd never go back to, I decided I didn't want. Guys knew had been a volunteer firefighter, done the training, learned, had the approvals to drive the fire truck and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, it's not for me. It's not for me. And, I ended up playing hockey with a whole bunch of firefighters. And, we had this, they called it 911 hockey. So police, fire, and ambulance would get together every Tuesday and we'd play for 2 hours and,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
really great friends and, just really great guys and just so much, admiration and respect for what you do and what they did.
yeah. It's the best to me. It's the best job in the world because it's always something different every day.
And the fact that you get to go around and actually share your story, like I know when I share my story, it's powerful for people that maybe aren't quite as aware of, the risk factors and, the importance of de-stressing your life or unstressing your life if you can, because there's so many things that it can be occupational, it can be from a mental health perspective. I mean, there's just so many things that you could go down with the guys that you're and the women that you're talking to and things like that. And I'm curious, what would a conversation typically look like when you go into a hall or you go to an event and you're speaking to a pretty big audience? How do you talk about what happened to you and how do you relate that to them?
Well, so, I always start off any lecture I'm doing with, like, I'm not, I was one of the ones who, like, in school, had a really bad stutter. I don't like talking in front of people. I do now, but, like, for me, going out and doing it is almost like therapy for me. I can tell my story and I can make it fun and sad, and I can have people crying in the crowd, but also have them laughing because I like to tell stories. So I just tell my story. I talk about, really, I kind of start from like when I started in the fire department, how I was doing things to get myself moved up the ladder and to get promoted, but I probably wasn't doing things the right way. My heart attack was a great reset for me, not only personally, like, it changed my life for the better. It made me really appreciate, not that you take like your family for granted, but like you're working all the time and like, it was like the sole provider. So, like, you kind of just think like, oh, I'm doing this for my family, but you take that so much time away from them that you kind of forget like the whole point of you working and working so hard and taking the risk you take at work is because you love your family so much and you want to provide for them. So I when I got to be off for a few, it gave me that reset. So I tell people that all the time. Like my mindset totally changed. But also tell a story about how when you talked about the survivor's responsibility, that came from my wife. You know,
Mm.
I'm laying in a hospital bed and I'm feeling bad for myself and I'm crying myself to sleep. And she sends me a newspaper article the same day that I had my heart attack and that I should if I was home I'd be dead. Right. I would not if I wasn't at work I'd be dead right now. She sends me a message about this guy, Brad Clark, who's a lieutenant in Virginia. He died the same day I had my heart attack. Got killed at work, hit by a tractor trailer, working an accident on the side of the road. And she sends me a thing that's like, you know, and it was real blunt. And it was kind of like, it was almost like cold, but I understood what she was saying. Like, she didn't like seeing me like that. And she just said, be sad today. Have your pity party tonight at the hospital by yourself. Tomorrow, it could be a whole lot worse, and send me the article. And instantly I was like, she's right. And now then you have all these people who don't know what to say to you because, they either haven't been in that situation before or they have been and like they've lost somebody to a heart attack or, so they don't know what to tell you. So then I feel like it's my responsibility to be like, yeah, like I had a heart attack and it sucked. It's the worst. I hate taking the medicine every day. I hate having to think about what I eat and I can't go out and I can, but I choose not to because I want to live a long time. I have young kids and a great life that I want to live. So, but it's also my responsibility. Like I was afforded by the skill of the guys who are with me to get me back, the skill of my doctor to go in there and get that clot out and put the stents in to make me okay and whole again. And I can do everything I could do before. But it's also like I think like I know people who are at risk for these things, but also people who just don't have the perspective that I have on life. And I can see that they're not happy or they hate their job or they're miserable to just give them some of the things that I learned. And if it helps one person be better or, you know, get to a happier place in their life, whether that's health wise or just, you know, their mental health or their overall happiness, then that's what I'm still here to do. On top of being, the best girl dad on the planet Earth and a good husband, which, for a long time I probably wasn't the best husband, but now I try to be a lot better because,
Yeah.
she stuck with me and took care of me and did all these things and put up with my crap for the past 23 years. The least I could do can do is try to make up for the times where she had to pick up 90% of the relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I love that. Your wife sounds an amazing human. I re-listened to a part of our podcast from before this morning, and again, she was prominent in the conversation. And I love that you've recently changed your Instagram handle to Girl Dad Randy.
Yeah.
Having two girls and the role model that you can be as a father. I mean, I always wanted a daughter. I was only blessed with one child, and in my previous marriage, and but I fortunately inherited a daughter. Adrian's got a daughter. Her name's Ella, and I call her Ella Girl. And it's been really an honor because she was 14 years old when I came on the scene, and she's just growing up to she's 22 now, and she's just a complete total badass, and she's fearless, and she's taking on the world, and she's doing it anyways. And she had learned that from her mom is I'm just so blessed to have Adrian in my life. And since you and I talked, we got married, and we have our moments, we have our struggles, and mostly my shit, and that's life.
Yeah.
It's you really get a sense of what your relationship's like when you messed up, and she's hurt, and you frustrate her, and that kind of stuff, and yet she loves you anyways. And I'm just so blessed to have somebody like Adrian in my life. My
Well,
relationship with
that's how you know it's good though. Like you can fight or you can just annoy the hell out of each other and, 10 minutes later it's just like it's okay.
Yeah, I agree. I agree to that, and I love we laugh a lot together, and we're both it's so funny. I just found the perfect person for me, and I think she would say the same thing because we're both weirdos. We both have this interesting humor, and like we'll be in bed and she'll say something or I'll say something, and we'll be like full on belly laughing before we fall asleep. Like it's just love that. I love that about her. She's got a son, Johnny, who is like a second son to me. He's just a really cool young man. He lives in Brooklyn, and my son has been brought into the family fold. Adrian's dad wanted to do a celebration for us getting married. We just went to City Hall. We didn't want anything fancy. We just wanted to, make it official. And like I said, and so we had this big gathering with, her sisters and all their partners. They Adria's dad had never met my son and nor anybody else other than her sister. And it was just really great to have everyone come together and we hung out and, they got to know my son, right? Because they'd hear me talk about him, but they had no context, didn't know, who he was as a man and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's really cool. Like I said, this has been just yeah, like I said, it's a great thing, and I love that because one thing that really was present for me was listening to you talk about your wife when we last spoke, and how she was part of your cardiac rehab and all of that, and is she still doing that work?
Yeah, so she does. She's still doing. She stepped back a little bit, and she's still doing some help. She works with a lot of like post stroke and some cardiac patients, and a lot of the older folks at our gym. She does a lot of that with the specialties. She don't have as many clients anymore just because we're so busy with the kids. But she started like her own travel agency this past year because we love to travel. And she's like, well, if we're so interested in this, I might as well just hey, go for it. And she was a special ed teacher for years and a school administrator before we did any of that stuff. So now with us homeschooling in Virginia, you have to submit like paperwork to the school, whether it's like a test or like an evaluation from a certified teacher saying that the child is making progress. So we know a bunch of homeschool parents now. So she started like a little consulting business where she does that too to help out these parents who didn't need, this stuff to prove that their kids are progressing through the system. I think she's busier than I am now doing that stuff. She's always tied up making, creating content for her travel stuff or working on somebody's evaluation and then running the kids here and there. And I figure, like I work 72 hours a week at the firehouse, but I'm pretty sure she works more than I do.
I love that. I love that. Sounds like she's a total badass, just like Adrian is. Adrian just sold her women's clothing boutique. And, when I met her, we met in Sedona on a hike at sunrise. And I just recently got a tattoo to commemorate that. We go by A and B, Adrian and Brian, and we have this thing in our bedroom, A and B. And so I've got this tattoo of Cathedral Rock with A and B. And
Cool.
yeah, and it's just, it was just something I've been thinking about for a long time. And, she's a total badass. She built a business out of her garage, turned it into a brick and got an opportunity to open a brick and mortar as a pop-up. And, she did that for almost 8 years. And she just got to the point where she's kind of feel like I've done everything and I want to find something else. And so we're both on that sort of journey to what's next. And I love that your wife is doing that because there's a lot of perks to being a travel agent, right? You can get great deals, and so it's really, I mean, I love that, and that's something we wanna do. We want to really start to travel more. She hasn't really been through a lot of parts of Canada, and I really want to take her and really show her just how fucking awesome Canada is, and how much because it is. I mean, you've been on the East Coast, you've shared it with me this morning, and you gotta get to the West Coast, like Vancouver, that drive up the coast, the Sea to Sky Highway is just it's just unbelievable. There's waterfalls you can see from the it's basically the one they call it the 1-2, and you can see it from the road, and you could pull in, and you can next thing you know, you've got this gigantic waterfall that's right there. It's like I said, Canada has a lot of beauty, as does the US, but it's just a different vibe, right? It's just a different vibe, and that's something that you gotta if you haven't been, you gotta get there to experience that vibe because, Canadian people are good people. And like I said, and I just really proud of, my peeps back home and how they're navigating the new world and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, again, it's a great country. And like I said, I'm just super proud. I've never really realized until recent times how proud I am to be Canadian. Like honestly, just so proud to be Canadian and actually have a Canadian flag hanging up. It's a luggage tag that just has the maple leaf on it, and I'm just proud
Yeah.
to you're Canadian, right? It's a really cool thing. So I want to just talk real quickly, to sort of switch gears a little bit about the fire hall. And, I think I shared this with you before, but, I watched Forks Over Knives years ago, and it was pivotal for me. And Dr. Esseltyn was the doctor that talked about the cardiovascular arm. There was another doctor that talked about the cancer arm, the China study, and Rip Esseltyn was a firefighter, I believe, in New York City. It was his son, and now he's got this whole Plant Strong company, and he's selling food and that kind of stuff. And he talked a lot in that documentary. For those that haven't watched Forks Over Knives, I highly, highly recommend it. It was game changer for me, and there was a the Game Changers actually that they did as well. A little more sensationalized. I liked the first one because it was more scientific. The Game Changers was a little bit of, there's just a little bit of, yeah, I don't know, just it was sensationalized, some of the things in it, which is fine. But I'm just curious because I mean, I remember him in that documentary, Forks Over Knives. He literally had everybody in the hall get their blood work done, and the guys were shocked when they saw their numbers, their cholesterol numbers and all of that, and then they started to eat Plant Strong. They started to eat plants more, and it's the only thing, non-medicine, non-drug related that has been proven to reverse cardiovascular disease. And I say that as disease because disease is when you have two states that don't match, right? And that's the
Yeah.
dis-ease happens when you're in a stressful situation like firefighters. Like there's a reason why. It's the number one killer of firefighters is heart attacks. What do you guys do in your hall as far as meals go? And what does that look like?
So, like was it we when we work a shift, we work 48 hours straight. So, everybody kind of just brings their stuff in. Lunches you kind of on your own. Um, Breakfast, unless it's a weekend, you kind of just do your own thing. Usually at nighttime, we try to all eat together. So one of the crews will go out of the store and pick up, food for whoever's in. Most time, unless somebody has like a weird diet restriction, like some people can't have, like if we're gonna do like pasta one night or something like that, the guys can't, some people can't have like the red sauce or whatever. Some people might be out, but most time everybody eats together. And we try to, especially over the last like year and a half, the firehouse as a whole has been gotten a lot better with having healthier meals. But it's also the firehouse too. So sometimes we got we got to have a day where we're gonna smoke some meat, on a Sunday and have a big barbecue or something like that. But it's a healthy dinner, vegetable option on the side with some kind of protein, and then you know every once in a while it's some fries or mac and cheese or something like that with as the big group. But it kind of comes and goes depending on who's working too. There are a lot of younger guys now, so they haven't figured out that they need to eat healthy yet because they're still in their 20s and invincible. The older heads can try to keep them straight as far as let's tone down the crazy a little bit and have something a little healthier. That way we don't feel like we have bricks in our stomach at 2 o'clock in the morning when we go run this fire too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, I was just curious more than anything. Like I said, it's yeah, you gotta work what's right, do what's right. And there's different ways to tackle your nutrition and what you put in your body and all that kind of stuff. And I try not to judge people based on what they eat. I just sort of let people eat. Hey, that's fine. You do that. I mean, I'm somebody who, when I made a decision to go plant based, I all in, and I suffered like a dog in the early days and weeks. How is it possible that I'm constipated and I'm eating all these plants, right? But what I learned exactly, I was like, no, what the heck are you doing to me?
Right.
Learned through research, and because I'm a science guy and I worked in healthcare for 20 years as a drug dealer, as I say now, a drug dealer, pushing pills, that I should have did a little more research and should have gone slower. And I should have probably taken some enzymes, which will help my body digest all of the fiber because now you're fiber full of fiber. And then not only that, that probiotics, I could have taken these probiotics that people take, that would have helped my gut flora switch over sooner so that it was more adept at eating plants. Because you're going to yourself like, I'm eating so well, but yet I am just like, my gut is just so all over the place. And so I think it's really important for anybody listening to this that go slow and be patient with yourself, and slowly introduce things and move things. And again, at the end of the day, if you could just have more plants on your plate, then that's a win. It doesn't mean don't eat meat. It doesn't mean don't eat fish. I'm that guy that doesn't. And my wife, she eats all that stuff. She doesn't really
Yeah,
eat
yeah.
meat, but likes the fish, but I've learned to soften my approach. I think everybody who goes, and I don't even like the term vegan because vegan is kind of polarizing. People are like, oh, you're vegan, you don't have honey. I'm like, no, I eat
Yeah,
honey.
yeah.
I'm not
Vegans and CrossFitters.
right, right. And so I just try to be more just whatever that work. If that works for you, great. I'm happy for you. You don't have to do what I do, but I'm that guy that when I'm all in, I'm all in. It's just and I paid for it in the beginning but now I'm at a place, and again, Adrian feels, so much better and healthier with how we eat, and we do meals together, and her kids love the food we make. And so they are now more mindful of being more plant-based. And then again, we'll go out for dinner and we'll, maybe someone will order a steak or whatever. I'm fine. I don't need you to do what I do. I'm just curious because again, I mean, I just, that Forks Over Knives, that's almost 8 years ago that I watched that. Still, I think about it and I talk about it all the time
Well,
because
that's
people,
the hardest. Like being a fireman is so hard.
yeah.
Like for me, I was just talking about this the other day with a friend of mine that was talking about like nutrition and stuff, and I'm just like, it's so hard. Like I think being in the firehouse, it's a yeah, we used to have actually when I first started working at my firehouse, we had like a closet. It was like a food pantry in the kitchen that was like a giant vending machine. It had all kinds of like just, candy bars and hostess cakes and anything you could think of that you might want to like go get at a 7-Eleven. We had it here. And you just, you put your money in the box. And we finally, over time was like, we got to get rid of this because it's way easy at like 1 o'clock in the morning when you get woken up for a fire alarm and you wake up and you can't go back to sleep. You walk around the firehouse trying to, figure out how you're going to go back to bed to hop in that closet and grab something you shouldn't be eating at 1 o'clock in the morning. You shouldn't be eating it at 10 o'clock in the morning, much less right before you go back to sleep. So, we've made those changes. And then like our apartment, um, for after years of pushing, and it was, you know, yeah, with the government and with any government institution, whether it's municipality or federal government, like to get something put in policy, it takes a while just because of all the legalese that has to go into it. But we actually have a policy now where everyone has to go to the gym or do some form of exercise for an hour every shift.
Mm.
Just having that in place has raised the level of like health conscious for our department as a whole. So these guys are like, well, we're putting this time in. We're going to the track and going, even once a week, we just go. Some nights we just go walking for an hour, but like we put this time in to get our bodies moving. Like, why are we going to ruin it? Just dumping crap back into it. So as a whole, like our entire my battalion has gotten so much healthier. Just because everyone is putting that time in, they don't want to ruin it.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. And it's something that isn't talked about enough is going for a walk after you've eaten dinner.
Oh, it's the
It is
best.
one you can do because it literally helps your body to digest the meal that you just ate, and so that you can get the most out of it. And that's something that's not talked about enough. And
Well,
walking
I
is,
think it helps your sleep too. Our our sleep is so jacked up anyway, but like even if you have a big meal and then you just immediately go into night mode where you're sitting around in the recliner watching TV for the rest of the night or doing whatever, like you just feel so sluggish and gross. But we get up and go for a walk, you know, around the base and come back to the firehouse. Like I sleep better when I do that. And maybe it's just me getting old. My body has to do different things now. But you know, I can sleep way better if I don't feel nasty from eating whatever we've eaten.
yeah, I'm right there with you, dude. I'm a few days shy of 59, which to me is just mind blowing. I look in the mirror at myself and I'm so proud of myself because I really feel I'm physically the best version of myself ever. And I'm 10 years out from my heart attack. And it's just been the gift that keeps giving. And I wouldn't change it for anything. It gets me to meet badass people like yourself. It inspires me to be better every day and to just stay in the work. And I love that we were able to reconnect. I knew this was going to be. I had no doubt this is going to be an amazing conversation. And I just really want to thank you for taking time. And
Yeah, man.
I just, like I said, I just really love your energy and your attitude. And I love what you're doing. And I'm excited for you. 2 years away, retirement. I don't know what that's going to look like for me. But
I'm still gonna have to work, but I'm not gonna work at the firehouse. I'll have to do something to maintain my children's expensive lifestyle. I'll be home every night with them, which will be that's the goal, right? Like I love my job. I love everybody. I love the firehouse. I love the guys and girls that I work with. It's amazing. But if I can be home more with them, I miss so much stuff. Like when I'm gone for 48 hours, and you can FaceTime all you want and phone calls, but I don't get to. I don't. I'm not there doing it. Like my daughter learned. Like my youngest Kinley, like last week or week before last, has been struggling trying to ride her two wheel bike and not fall down. And so she got on the road. She was always scared to fall down. So she would try to ride in the yard, but the yard, you can't do the same thing. And I was at work and she was on the street riding her bike. I was like, oh, I wasn't there. Like I'm stuck in his firehouse tonight. And that's, as rewarding as this job is, and it's given me everything that I have, the good, I tell people all the time, like I would have nothing that I qualify as good without this job. Like, um, you know, I had the ability I met my wife, but then I had enough. I found out where she lived because I ran a call, a volunteer. I ran a call to her house. I found out where she lived at, so I could send flowers to her. And then we started dating. So I was like the creepy EMT, but it worked for once. It worked out for the creepy EMT, I guess. We adopted both of our daughters. Well, to do that, it costs money to do that. So my job afforded me the ability to have the means to adopt our children, which has been the greatest thing I've ever done. Most of my friends are firemen. My life got saved by firemen, you know. So everything good in my life is because of the fire department. But I can't wait to not be in the fire department so I can enjoy all those things that the fire department gave me. And some people get mad when I say that because they're like, oh, you're not into the job. Or yes, I am. I'm going around and teaching at fire conferences and learning, and I never stop doing fire department stuff. But when it's time for me to go be a family man and not be at the firehouse every night, I'll still be involved with the fire department until probably till the day I die. It'll just look different. It won't involve me being gone for 48 hours. It'll involve me helping in different ways.
Love that. Love that. Love everything about it. And I think that's there's no better way to kind of end this than to end it on that. So thank you for that. And yeah, I just appreciate you so much, and I'm so glad that we could make this happen. And yeah, I just want to thank everybody that's gonna tune in and listen to this because it's been a very amazing, powerful conversation, as I had no doubt it would be. If you haven't yet already hit subscribe, please hit subscribe now. Follow Randy on social media. Girl Dad Randy's his handle on Instagram. And as you can tell from this conversation, he is an incredible human. And I'm just really grateful that when I connected and that we could reconnect. If you know somebody you think this content will resonate with, please share it. It's how we grow it. There's so much work yet to do to raise awareness to the fact that cardiovascular disease is the number one killer of men and women worldwide. It's so important to know the signs, know the symptoms, know your family history. It's on you to ask those questions. Ask your mom and dad, ask your parents, ask your cousins, ask, do we have any issues? Is there cardiovascular disease in our family? And go to your doctor regularly and get checked out, get your blood work done. These are all things that you can control because you are the only one who can change the story. And that's something that we all need to really look at when we look in the mirror. Am I doing everything I can to live the best, healthiest life and be the best version of myself that I can? And so Randy, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Oh
And
man, thank
let's,
you. I always enjoy talking to you, buddy.
yeah. Well, it's been great. So thank you. And I'll be back soon with another episode. Until then, bye for now.